We've all met that one dude who is always acting super tough around pretty much everybody that he comes into contact with. This is a guy who has a super exaggerated walking style, and pretty much everything that he does in one way or another is carefully planned to make him appear super tough to other people. And you've probably wondered at some point if the way that these guys portray themselves is just a facade or a curtain that they use to hide behind. And you would be right to assume this. What you're about to uncover right now are 5 ways that weak men try to act quote-unquote alpha, so that you can not only spot these signs in other men, but also recognize if you yourself might unknowingly be doing these things. Now the first sign is one that many guys unknowingly do, and when a guy does it, you might say that he is trying to alpha up on you. And one of the things that weak men will do to accomplish this is make fun of you at the exact moment that you receive attention from an attractive girl. In high school, we all knew that guy who is the prime example of what you might call a fake alpha, or a very weak guy who is putting on a very convincing act, making people believe that he is the top dog. And the crazy thing is that in high school, this actually works pretty well for the guy because nobody really knows any better. And this guy is usually way bigger and stronger than most of the guys around him, so nobody really bothers to call him out on his act. It's funny because there used to be this guy in my gym class named Jerry, and he would always be hanging out with a couple of other dudes, and whenever a good-looking girl in our class would show interest in one of the other dudes that he was with, Jerry would start making jokes to quote-unquote alpha up on the other dudes. So basically what was happening was that he would make them look small while trying to make himself look like the top dog of the group. For example, he might bring up something really embarrassing that one of the other guys in the group did, or basically anything that would make them look small and unimportant while making others view him as the more important guy. And Jerry would always make sure to do this even more when the other dudes in the group were trying to gain the interest or attraction of an attractive female. So the first major thing that weak guys do to try to act alpha is belittling other guys around them in order to make themselves look bigger and more important. Now next up at number 2 is another way that weak men will try to act alpha, and it's one that many guys unknowingly do every single day. How many times have you met one of those dudes at work or at school who regularly talks about fighting? Weak men who want to appear tough around other people will frequently talk about fights and come up with ways to subtly brag about their fighting skills, which most of the time they don't even have. And this is yet another way that weak men try to intimidate other men, and you'll most commonly find this sign among men in high school or even college. In most cases, these weak men don't know how to fight at all, but they will talk about fighting or other things involving violence as a way to make you and other people believe that they are the tough alpha that they claim to be. And some of these guys really do have great fighting skills because they are simply losers who actually get into fights all the time because they only care about upholding this false image of being the toughest guy in school. So if you ever find yourself subtly bragging about fights that you used to get into, then there's a good chance that you're trying way too hard to act alpha. Now next up at number 3 is a quick and simple sign, and it also happens to be one of the most common among weak men who are trying to act tough. And number 3 is simply gripping another guy's hand way too hard during a handshake. You see, a handshake is meant to be a connection between two people, but it is frequently used by wannabe alphas as a way to, for no particular reason, assert dominance over other men. So the bottom line here is, shake hands with other men firmly, but don't ever be that guy who acts like he's trying to squeeze orange juice out of the other guy's hand. Now next up at number 4 is another way that weak men try to act alpha, and it's something that you could be unknowingly doing right now at this very moment. And at first, this sneaky little verbal trick comes off as being innocent enough, but then you realize what is really happening. So the 4th thing that weak men do to try to act alpha is tell people to do something instead of asking them to do it. Imagine you're sitting in your room playing Xbox with a couple of friends, and one of your buddies just happened to bring a Jerry along with him. And right from the start, after you all sit down, Jerry basically commands you to grab him a controller. He doesn't ask you to grab him one, and instead, he simply says, "Hey, grab me a controller." The difference here is that he is basically giving you an order rather than asking you to do it. And this is yet another way that weak men will try to assert dominance over you. And like many of the other things guys like Jerry tend to do, this little verbal trick is too subtle to really call him out on, because then you'll just confirm what he already believes by making a big deal about it. So the next time that you're with other guys, remember, asking them to do something conveys to them that you are equal in terms of status in the group, and commanding them or telling them to do something is a way of asserting dominance over them, and in most situations, doing this will just make you look weak and insecure. Now at number 5 is another way that weak men try to act alpha every single day, and it's yet another extremely common thing that guys unknowingly do, and the result is always the same. In this world, we already know that there are both dominant and submissive men. And I can usually tell within the first 60 seconds after meeting someone if they are more dominant or more submissive, or what you might call an alpha or beta. But here's the difference. Even if I have made assumptions that a guy leans into one of these two mindsets, I would never actually call him that out loud. For example, if I was hanging out with him and a group of friends, I would never be like, "Oh my god, Jerry, you're such a beta." But this is exactly what weak men who are trying to act alpha would do, and they are even more likely to call other men beta or similar words that mean the same thing when there are females around, because in doing so, it is yet another way for them to convince others that they are the more dominant alpha of the group. This has been 5 ways that weak men try to act alpha. So if you see other guys doing these things, you will know that they are most likely just weak and insecure on the inside, and at the same time, you can make sure that you're not unknowingly doing them yourself. And with that said, I love you guys like my brothers, and until next time, thanks for watching.